Welcome to Eureka Street Crypto. This is my anti-professional crypto channel. I'm just a barely sane dude who fell down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. This channel is my fumbling attempt to communicate myself outside my own head about my journey in the crypto space. It is basically my brain dump. None of this is actual financial advice. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Web3 Crypto Podcast. Sure. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I say that because crypto has just been dragged through the mud lately. And I try to communicate that I am not on board with all this wild speculation. I'm not on board with centralized exchanges and the banking, centralized fractional banking activity that has been going on in a lot of these centralized exchanges. That I'm about Web3. I'm about the decentralization of our social media. I'm about decentralization of our finance system. I'm about the decentralization of our media. And just decentralization in general. And it's not about speculation for me. I have made some decent money off of some weird random tokens, and I've lost just as much money, going and putting my faith in some of these projects after I've read the white papers, and they just went to zero. So it's what it's all about, and it's part of the learning process. I just call all of this stuff kind of an educational expense. But anyway, welcome to my show. Yeah, so I just started off right off the bat just rambling. And this is episode number 493 of my morning show. I haven't been doing it every morning lately for the past few months, just because I've been really busy with other crypto projects, other podcast projects in this Web3 space. Crypto Sapiens is one of them, cryptosapiens.xyz. You can go check that out. And now that podcast has now moved to video, and I'm the one behind the scenes, along with several other people, producing this podcast. And we just went to video, and it takes a lot of time. And I've been working a lot with JournoDAO.xyz, and we have a mini series in partnership with Crypto Sapiens called DiGiorno. Not the frozen pizza DiGiorno, but it's kind of a play on word. And I never really liked the DiGiorno pizzas. I always was more of a Red Baron pizza fan if I was going to go the frozen pizza route. But the name, decentralized journalism. We also did a series called Web3ID, and we did a series called Decentralized. And then now it's DiGiorno, right? So we talked about identification systems, and then we talked about decentralized science. Now we're talking about decentralized journalism. And then who knows what's next? Maybe we'll do decentralized social media. Speaking of which, we'll be talking about decentralized social media in this episode. This podcast here is nothing but my brain dump, where I just dump out whatever is on my mind and all the stuff that I've been learning about Web3. It's my message in a bottle to be able to reach out to the other people in this space who are interested in this space, or just in what I'm doing lately and what I'm interested in as well, just as a person. And then this is my sandbox, just to play with tons of different audio visual things. As you can see, this setup layout is different than my past episodes. I'm trying out a new service, and we'll see if it works okay for me. So if it screws up, whatever, it's just another episode down the hatch. All right, so let me go ahead and present my screen. So speaking of decentralized social media, Twitter has been all up in flames lately with the recent acquisition by Elon Musk. It's driving a lot of people crazy, and other people love it. Personally, I've just been receiving a ton more spam in my DMs and everywhere, being tagged all over the place on these airdrops, that are scams. So if you get tagged on, with several other people on Twitter, to that you're going to participate in an airdrop or something, or they're announcing some NFT drop and you're whitelisted, you're not. It's a scam. So just keep that in mind. Just block those people. You can go through the several screen process and actually report it if you want. But, most of the time I don't have time to do that. So, but anyway, whatever. So I'm going to open up my screen here. I spoke a few days ago with Crystal Street, and she is in the JournoDAO with me. She's a journalist and also a lifetime student. And She is very active in activism, and she's in photography and stuff like that. And she's been messing around with Twitter for years. So we'll get on to her in a little while. And hear her perspective on Twitter and on Mastodon and stuff like that. But before that, I kind of just want to give you a little primer on what Mastodon is. So Mastodon right now is pretty much the only alternative to Twitter that we really have at scale, is what she said. There are some Web3 alternatives, and what I mean by that is Twitter owns all your data. You know, you sign up, you create a profile, and just like any social media site, just like Facebook, just like MySpace, you know, Twitter, LinkedIn, even, you know, everything, every comment that you post, every like that you do, every photo, video, everything that you post up on there, retweet, whatever, all that information is stored by the servers of the corporation. And that information is used to sell stuff back to you, or who knows what else it's used. It's been a little, if you want to get a little darker, that information is also used against you, especially for things like employment and the court of the law, things people tweet can create kind of a radical profile of some people that can be used against you. So you always have to be careful what you say on social media. And the thing is that kind of goes down on your permanent record, and they own that data. So they're making millions off of you, so if the product is free, you're basically the product, right? So with all this recent acquisition of Elon Musk by Twitter, and then they saying Twitter's being radicalized by the right wing and all that stuff. I'm not right or left wing. I'm just a dude here. One of those other websites, and this is not a Web3 website, but is Mastodon. And Mastodon, I guess you could say it's kind of like Web 2.5, but here they say it's social networking that's for sale. Your home feed should be filled with what matters to you most, not what a corporation thinks you should see. And so if you've noticed a lot more commercials going through on your feed, on Instagram, on Facebook, of course, if you're still on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, if suggested ads for you, and you happen to mention the state of Wisconsin while you're talking to somebody in a car, and then the rest of the whole next 2 days you see nothing but ads about Wisconsin. That's kind of creepy, right? It's all about those algorithms in Twitter, and those algorithms are also designed to incite emotion and fear and anger, because that's what gets the clicks. And the more clicks you have, the more clicks you make on things, the more money they make by advertising, right? So the news cycle is in a weird state right now. Clicks drive the content. The tail is wagging the dog. So you have somebody that's wanting to write some kind of investigative analysis of maybe our water quality at a local water station, but you have this man in Florida that wrestles a gator at a Kmart. I mean, that's going to get the clicks, and somehow that ends up on your feed instead of the local water quality issue, and so your algorithm starts to seek what will get the most clicks, because that's how more money is brought into the platform. And that's probably a terrible description of it, but you're kind of getting the idea. What clicks is what becomes news, and inflammatory polarization of politics, that definitely gets a lot of clicks, and it riles people up, and it gets people to comment on things. And so all that is national news, and then it just drowns out the local news and the local things that matter. That's what these algorithms are doing to us. And they're just pitting us against each other, and it's kind of disturbing. So Mastodon is kind of an alternative that a lot of journalists will go through. And what Crystal explains here, when I'll play her clip, is that she's saying that during the Arab Spring and Occupy Wall Street, she was able to follow these hashtags and for the first time follow something in real life, news in real life that didn't come back at the time through the mainstream news agencies, Um, so anybody, it was kind of a democratization of news at that time. And that's back when Twitter's APIs were open, which meaning anybody could plug it in and anybody could create these hashtags. And there wasn't the type of censorship that was that has been going on lately. Twitter was a different story back in the late early 2000s, like late oh ones, 02, 03, 04, or whenever, 05, 08, 09, the early 2000s. So anyway, let's go take a look here at Mastodon. So Mastodon, I described it as kind of a hodgepodge between Twitter and Discord. So it allows you to join all these different communities, like-minded communities and stuff like that. And then if you don't like that community, or if they boot you because you violate their terms of service and their rules, then you can just go to another community within Mastodon and take your friends with you, and you can still follow that. And that's one thing I've been kind of preaching about Web3 social media, is you can take your friends with you wherever you go. So Mastodon is apparently open source, and it allows anybody to spin up their own servers and to allow people to join their servers as long as they comply with the terms of service. And yes, your data is stored on whoever server that spun up that community, but they're not monetizing off of your data like they do on Twitter. So that's why I call it Web 2.5. It's decentralized in that. Take another look here. Here's the servers. Mastodon is not a single website. To use it, you need to make an account with a provider. We call them servers. That lets you connect with other people across Mastodon. So you getting started with Mastodon is easy, they say. It took me a while to get my head wrapped around Mastodon. So let me make this screen a little larger here. Okay, so the first step is deciding which server you'd like to make your account on. Every server is operated by an independent organization, or an individual may differ in moderation policies. Your feed. With an account on your server, you can follow any other person on the network, on the whole Mastodon network, regardless of where their account is hosted. So they could be on a different server. So I believe Crystal is on mastodon.online. I think my friend Keith, he's on mastodon.social. I'm on a Mastodon server called c.im. So yeah, with an account on your server, you can follow any other person on the whole network, regardless of where their account is hosted, and you will see that person in your home feed. And if they follow you, you will see, they will see yours and theirs. And then Mastodon is flexible, finding a different server you'd prefer. So if I don't like that c.im server that I'm in, I can go to any other server. Yeah, or if Keith doesn't like mastodon.social, he can come over to the server that I've joined, c.im. It's c.im stands for like creativity, innovation, and something. I don't know. I just joined it randomly. So I might join another server. I just kind of joined that just to experiment with what Mastodon is. It was just a server I found that was available and I clicked on. And I'll show you in a little bit. So with Mastodon, you can easily move your profile to a different server at any time without losing any followers. To be in complete control, you can create your own server. Yeah, I don't have the time or compute the power in a server. You could if you wanted to. Anyway, and it's safe for all. We can't control the servers, but we can control what we promote on this page. Our organization will only point you to the servers that are consistently committed to moderation against racism, sexism, and transphobia. Okay, so yeah. And here's a bunch of different servers right here that you can choose from. So you would go to joinmastodon.org and servers. Yeah, and these are people that have spun up their own servers. And if you like their rules and their communities and the stuff that they're all about, then by all means, jump into it. And this is how I found that c.im server. And yeah, then I don't really honestly log in all that much, but it's been interesting. It's an interesting experiment, and more people, like journalist types, are actually moving over here to Mastodon. So let's go take a quick look at my server, c.im, that I joined. It's a lot like your page, the notifications, the explore, the local federated means other servers. So you can follow hashtags. And notifications. So here's my home thread, and this I follow C Street, which is Crystal, and everything that she retweets or boost is what they call it here. It shows up on my feed, and she retweets quite a bit, to the point where I only have like 3 friends so far. So she's the most active on, so yeah, yeah. And I have another friend, Keith Axline, on here too, and he has not posted in a while. And so, yeah. But as you can see, if I had followed a bunch of other people from other servers, all that would show up here. If I wanted to only see what's on this server, I would see only the people on C.M. And yeah, here it is. The content, well, it's got to take a while for all this stuff to load. But yeah, I'm only seeing the content on this local server C.im. If I want to explore hashtags, I can do it there. If I want to explore other servers, I can do it here. And here's direct messages. And of course, I get notifications just like Twitter. So yeah, it operates quite a bit like Twitter. So anyway, yeah, I guess you can kind of get the gist of it. Let me go over here to this tab, and I will play the clip talking to Crystal about her history with Twitter and why she moved over to Mastodon. So you can kind of get like a broad perspective of it and her experience with both Twitter and Mastodon. And then I'll come back to you. All right, 1 second here. Okay, so let's start with Mastodon. The Mastodon. Are you on the Mastodon?
Oh my God.
Let's see. So here's where, okay, I'm searching for Mastodon. People say it's like an alternative to Twitter, but it's not exactly like Twitter. So a lot of people go to Mastodon searching for some of the similar Twitter functionality, like the GIFs and all that other type of stuff that are just not possible here. So are you able to summarize maybe some of the similarities and differences?
I think so. I have a love-hate with this platform. I first joined it like 3 years ago, maybe. But there was just nothing on it, and I couldn't find anything because the search functions they don't use algorithms at all.
Yeah.
So, and that's really the big difference. It's been fascinating watching journalists, because we're the power users on Twitter. So watching journalists migrate to Mastodon, it's just a complete shit show. And we're so used to having, there's several things we're used to with Twitter. You've got the algorithms, you've got algorithms that are based on engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And your large followings, where it's much more broadcast oriented. Mastodon is the exact opposite, and I'm pretty sure that's why the creator made it, is because he was fed up with what had happened at Twitter. So he made Mastodon be the opposite.
Huh.
So it's fascinating to watch journalists try to port it all over and just flounder. I mean,
yeah,
not just journalists, but
I expected a Twitter alternative. I mean, I was never really into news or politics, honestly, forever. And that's why I never got on Twitter until crypto. And then I suddenly discovered the power of Twitter to learn and for people to create threads and things like that. And just for the fun of it. And I've gotten to know a lot of people through Twitter. So I like Twitter. I don't necessarily love everything that's happening to it right now, just because right now there's just tons of scams and an overload of just like spam and just crap in my DMs and all just, it's just kind of gone haywire right now. But Twitter started off kind of as an open source type of program, right? I mean, maybe not open source, but like developers could build on it in the same way that Mastodon is doing right now, right?
Yeah, the API was open, and it might still be slightly open. I can't remember that part. I first joined Twitter. I was at journalism school, and this kid sitting next to me was on this thing with a blue bird on it. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, man, this thing's cool." I like, it made no sense to me. So like a year, and it had just launched. So a year later, I started exploring it because I saw more journalists talking about it.
Okay.
So I've always used it as a journalist from that lens. So it didn't really hit me the power of it. Well, actually, I guess it was twofold. I was a digital nomad, like I was exploring with that 2010, 2011. And I started connecting with fellow travelers around the world. And we connected on Twitter and then met in real life. And most of them there were a few that were wackadoodles, but most of them like were normal and were still really close. So I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because we're a distributed network of people. We're digital. We're just wandering all over the place. So, and then I saw, I think it was Occupy Wall Street happened first and then the Arab Spring. And I just installed TweetDeck, which gives you all those columns to watch hashtags. And so I think it was TweetDeck, and I was watching that when Occupy Wall Street broke, and I had like 4 different hashtags that I was following, and the speed at which these hashtags was refreshing because it was live blew my mind. And I was like, holy shit, this is a tipping point. And then I was like, this is something I really have to understand on a deeper level, because look what just happened. News happened so fast, nobody could report it.
Yeah.
But you're seeing in real time on the ground what's happening based on hashtags. And then the same with Arab Spring. That's why they, a lot of countries in the Middle East shut it down, because they saw what happened with Occupy Wall Street, and they just shut the whole thing down. They shut the internet down.
In a weird way, it's kind of like Tank in the Matrix. If you know how to read the hashtags and everything like that, you can kind of see what's going on in live time with the Matrix.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like every breaking news event since then, I have watched it happen in real time. So I've not had to rely on journalists, and I'll watch it filter through the media, but I haven't. So now I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on in the world, because now the hashtags, Twitter is so broken. The engineers are gone, the security team's gone, the moderators are gone. I mean, there's literally no one there. I think they went from like 1,000 to 250 people.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not confirmed, but that's what I've seen. So it's just like we've had 2 smaller breaking news events. One was weather related, and 2 shootings. And I'm scanning hashtags, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just gone. So that is a little jarring. So porting over to Mastodon, there is no search algorithm. So you can scan the hashtags, but it doesn't function the way Twitter did. And it's by design.
Yeah. So a lot of the journalists have been going over to Mastodon, and I've been seeing some activity over there, but like you said, they don't have the algorithms. I don't know that much about the algorithms, honestly. And I just know that Twitter is like the epitome of Web 2, and what Web 2 means is all that data on there is stored on there. So everything that is posted on there is on the Twitter servers, and there's no way you can really pull that off or own that data or anything like that, correct?
You can download all of your data. You don't own it.
Okay.
But I just requested my archive last week, and I went ahead and got it. I've not opened it. There's a few, somebody made some scrapers that, some Python scripts that will scrape it and then put it into like WordPress or put it somewhere. I'm like, I don't ever really want to read all the shit that I've vomited for the past like 13 years on the platform. But I wanted to at least like have the data in my possession in case I do decide to delete the account. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so everybody's moving over to Mastodon. Do you think that they're moving over because it's a more decentralized alternative, or just because they're sick of Twitter?
I think it's because it's the alternative. Like last night, CBS announced that they're no longer allowing their journalists to tweet at all. And I think that goes up to corporate as well, because it's not safe for their journalists to be tweeting on that platform. Yeah, I just sent out a notice to, I work with the marketing department at school here, and I just sent out a big old email. I'm like, y'all need to shut it down. So.
Well, where are they going to be creating accounts then? I mean, Mastodon is obviously not really a great UX to be working on. So how are people going to get this breaking source of news information?
Exactly. We either have to go back to old school journalism, which will be interesting because we've gone so far down this rabbit hole. A lot of big journalists have ported over to Mastodon. I think they're adjusting. So I actually just in the past, I think I jumped over there like the end of October. So it's been 3 weeks. I'm finding that Mastodon, at least because of the people that have taken the time to follow the journalists, they were the same ones on Twitter that I was following, the big ones. So I can still get their version of the news. So it has become a tool again, but it's not fast news. It's not breaking news.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. One thing that I noticed on Mastodon is there's all these little communities and servers. And if you've ever played on Discord, and I know you do, and you're like a veteran at Discord, you can join any server, and each server sets their own rules. Yeah. So Mastodon to me kind of seems like a hodgepodge mix of Discord meets Twitter,
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But here, the thing that I didn't realize until the other day, because some journalists got themselves banned, is that the bigger any server can ban anybody in any other server.
Wait,
so that
what?
URL, so the URL extension where you signed up, so like I'm on mastodon.social.
Yeah.
Let's say the mastodon.art server doesn't want anybody from mastodon.social to see their server. They'll just ban them. They can just cut the connection.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
That's
interesting.
pretty hardcore. Um, my one of my colleagues, Web3 colleagues, Humpty Calderon and Crypto posted the other day on Twitter here, and he's talking about Mastodon. And this, I mean, he knows this is coming from like a Web3 perspective, and then you're going in there and you're hearing about a decentralized alternative to Twitter, and you're like, okay, cool. Let's go check this out. Aberrant suspender identity isn't portable, and they have custody of your data. Smells centralized to me. Now, I don't think at the time when he posted this that he understood that it's kind of like Web 2.5, but this is like a Web 3 person's reaction, immediate reaction to like what Mastodon is. So you're saying that if for instance, this guy, got cut off here for being a capitalist, like no capitalists on here, thank you, might change my mind for a bunch of Moneros, and definitely no cross posting to the public timeline. What does that mean? Like, so his account is suspended for being a capitalist. Like, does that mean this server that he was on, he will no longer be able to see?
I'm pretty sure that's what that means.
Okay.
I haven't personally crossed that. I probably would have. I joined the biggest art community on Mastodon right off the bat, and didn't realize they were NFT. They were really against NFTs. A lot of Mastodon really does not like Web3. I've been trolled multiple times by people on these servers.
Which is weird because it's like borderline Web3.
Right? It just fucking kills me. So I probably would have gotten suspended if I'd have posted my link to like Foundation or something.
Okay.
But but the thing that I'm curious about is, can you port your followers over? Like the other night, I made the effort to follow a bunch of journalists and craft that feed like I used to do on Twitter. And I'm like, man, if I get booted from this server, like, do I have to do this all over again? Because when you join each server, it's a brand new account, essentially. You can port them over, but I don't know exactly the mechanics of that. And I don't know if all of the followers, I saw somebody comment that their followers didn't port over with them like it's supposed to.
I'm noticing on my timeline, I'm able to follow what you post in other servers and what like Keith posts in other servers, and so we can still follow each other no matter what server we're in, right? Okay. All right.
So that part, the cross posting, that all works. I don't know about the followers themselves. If there is a way to port them over, I think I tried it once and I failed. But there is a way to do it. So like, I would love to have a decentralized option. I mean, Mastodon is just the only option right now that has scale. So you need scale and something that's decentralized.
I mean, you say that there's no other options. I mean, at scale, I think is the key word, because there are other options. There's gm.xyz. There's was it Lens Peer? Or
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, and then there's a YouTube alternative called LensTube as well on the Lens Protocol platform.
Yeah, the scale is the part. I mean, as a journalist, the scale is what matters for me. As somebody that just wants to connect with Web3 community, I can either do that on Discord or we can make our own server on Mastodon or on one of these newer Web3 platforms.
Okay. So I think you kind of get the gist of it. Basically, one of my main takeaways from what Crystal was saying is that there's no real scalable alternative to Twitter right now. Mastodon is, they say, like she said, they say it's decentralized, but the followers didn't port over like they were supposed to. In the example of one of her friends. I don't know. I haven't tried to port over my followers to another server from the c.im server yet. I'll try. I'll give it a whirl and see what's going on. And there's, I don't know. In the UX, the user experience is not that good and not that intuitive for a lot of people to pick up. So I don't know if Mastodon is necessarily ready for the masses in the way that Twitter is. So we'll see. And is Twitter going to go the way of Facebook, down to the dregs of the internet? So far, it seems like that might be the case. Is Mastodon the next big social networking platform? Honestly, I don't think so. The next big anything never really comes from expecting to be the next big thing. It's always just something random that pops up. And anyway, and it's just, like she said, Twitter's not safe for people in the workplace and in corporations to be able to be posting on Twitter, because everybody is got their eye on everything you do right now. And anyway, that being said, I think that pretty much sums up this whole episode. People are moving off of Twitter. People are searching for alternatives. There's no real alternative that has popped up yet. Mastodon is trying to be that crutch. Is it going to pull through? We'll find out. Otherwise, Web3 media, I would go check out Lens Protocol. LensTube is cool too. It's a YouTube alternative. And it's mainly Web3 focused right now within the Web3 community. But a lot of other people are starting to join. A lot of Gen Zers and stuff like that. And we'll see where that leads us. But go check out lens.xyz, and you can explore this new protocol to build a network. Maybe Web3 is going to become just as mainstream as the internet did. It took a while for it to gain traction. The internet at the very beginning was just dubbed as only something for money launderers and pornographers, and now it's the backbone of our entire society. And it was meant, the Web3 is trying to become what the internet was originally meant to be: decentralized and a source of decentralized information for everybody, democratized, not built in these little walled gardens, is what they call them, these social platforms that basically are there for the purpose of containing and making money. All right. Anyway, that being said, I will talk to you all on another day. Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.